So much on power and load shedding. It has dominated this bulletin so far on so many different angles. The Public Enterprises Minister in government to challenge the court ruling that gave them 60 days to exempt hospitals, schools and police stations from those rolling power cuts. Today, the Black Business Council has come out to say challenging this order is just the wrong thing to do. The BBC says the ruling signals a welcome shift towards enforcing the rights entrenched in the Constitution. I'm joined now by the Council's CEO, Kganki Matabane. Mr. Matabane, thank you so much for your time. You know, government says it's just worried that this court order might create instability for the grid because it's just logistically very, very difficult to ring-fence all these institutions. What's your response to their very practical concern?
Good evening, Sally, and the eNCA viewers. We think the government should not go to technicalities. We are very much aware that the system design is not necessarily accommodating to the entire ruling, but there will be some components of the ruling that are implementable. And then the issue of destabilizing the grid, I don't know why they're talking about that, because the grid has been destabilized for the past 10 or so years. So that excuse, I think, does not necessarily make sense. And we are appealing to the minister to say, instead of wasting government money and time, rather say, let me find ways of making sure that public facilities like the health facilities, clinics, hospitals, schools have electricity. Let's find ways, take that money that you are supposed to go to court with and buy some generators, get some solar systems installed, because this legal developments are not cheap. They are very expensive. So government, instead of trying to fight things that are supposed to be positive, for us, we're saying, let's not fight those things. Let them, if we have technical issues that we think may not make us to be 100% compliant, let's approach the court and say, we can't do that thing, but we can do this one.
I hear you.
Rather than saying we can't do everything, because our challenge is that the poor people are the ones that are facing all these challenges, because the rich have got private hospitals, they've got the private security system, they can afford the solar systems themselves, they're going to private schools. But the poor, who are supposed to be protected by the Constitution, are the ones who are suffering the most.
Yeah, and I mean, we've heard about, I was speaking to our reporter Hadi Jarkos, Chris Hani Baragwan. It's such a massive hospital. And yes, a lot of these hospitals do have backup generators, but they're not designed to roll on and on and on. We also know that the health department a few months ago said, look, we're going to try and do our best to make sure that we can either exclude a hospital from load shedding or at least provide proper backup. I spoke to the Deputy Health Minister. He says they are making progress. I think they've got at least 76 hospitals already sorted out. But obviously, as you say, they have to do more because lives can be lost in this process. It is absolutely critical. What do you think? I mean, you've mentioned don't focus your energy on an appeal in court. Focus your energy on getting those backup systems. But talk to me about what more could be done, because it's such an individual. You know, it seems like there's quite a unique solution that has to be applied for each individual hospital, police station. How do you practically imagine them doing more than they're currently doing?
I think for us is to look at the hospitals and prioritize them. Yeah. And then also you can start with the hospitals, because you've got the chance of losing a life there. Imagine nurses and doctors who are working there. You can imagine the stress level that they go through. But our other issue is that small businesses also, we need to find a way and a tangible way to support them and find a power relief support system, because the current things that were announced by the Minister of Finance are not necessarily helping small businesses. They've announced almost like a bounce back scheme, but we engage with the National Treasury. We realize that this is not a bounce back scheme. This is basically to subsidize big businesses to go and buy power systems and then go and rent out the power systems to small businesses. That is not necessarily going to help, because you need to have the money first before you can even participate.
Yeah, and you know, even the big businesses, massive retailers, are saying they're under enormous pressure. It is ripping their bottom line to shreds, but so much more so for small and medium businesses. You're obviously in contact with businesses. Just talk to me about what's in reality happening to these businesses, and especially the small businesses that are the mainstay for so many people. And so many communities. What's happening to our entrepreneurs, for example?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I think things are very bad. People are losing businesses on a daily basis, and some of these from hand to mouth type of businesses are the ones that are able to employ young people, to employ women, to make sure that parents are able to send their kids to school, and those are closing on a daily basis, because they just can't compete with the big businesses. Because if you incur costs installing a solar system or buying any power system that you can afford, a generator or so, you then have to pass those costs to the consumer, which then means that your cost must go, your prices must go up, and then that will affect your competitiveness. And if you can't compete, then you have to close down. And there are other factors, for example, the petrol price, the interest rate, and all these other factors that are also putting so much pressure to small businesses. So our appeal is that let's find a way to support these small businesses, because if we don't, we're actually increasing the 75% youth unemployment to probably 80, 90%. And that on its own is a very, very dangerous situation.
Absolutely. It is mission critical at this point. Thank you for speaking to us, and words of great sense there. CEO of the Black Business Council, Kganki Matabane, saying, stop this appeal, just start focusing on what you can do to make sure that hospitals, as a first priority, have access to alternative power during a load shedding.